Hey guys, back with another vlog video. Wanted to take some time today since a few days ago we finally finished up the first full build series to basically do a debrief discussion on the whole thing. You know, what worked, what didn't work, things I'm going to keep, things that I'm going to change, and things that I'm just going to scrap altogether. So, first, a little background. I began filming that series in March of 2018 and finished filming in June of that year. The first episode actually came out in September of that year, and then finally this year, 2023, we got the last episode finally out. So, right away, not doing that again. We're not going to go half a decade to get one series done. That's something flat out we're going to change. It's not going to happen again. You know, when I started this series, I'll be honest, I underestimate just how much work is going to go into it. You know, I thought, okay, I got all the video recorded. Okay, it shouldn't take me that long to go through, edit it all together. And quickly, I realized that was my big mistake. That, it actually is going to take a lot more time, a lot more effort than I realized. Because don't forget, I'm a one-person operation, so, I'm having to do all the editing myself. And to be honest, outsourcing it and hiring somebody to do it just really isn't in the cards. At least for what I'm doing. I mean, unless things really all of a sudden took off and, started going gangbusters, started seeing some type of return on investment for what I'm doing here, then maybe, and even then, would only be if, I was looking at this maybe to be close to something full time. But even then, I just don't see that happening. So, going forward, my thought is I'm not going to release another series until I've got it close to being done. We'll go into that a little more a bit later, as one of the things I do want to do with this particular video discussion, is ask some questions and get some feedback. So we'll get into that a little later. So, obviously, this is the first time I've done anything like this. I knew there was going to be issues, and obviously time was a big one. So, moving forward, that's going to be a big thing I'm going to change, is that on the next one, when that does come out, I am going to have most of it done before I start releasing it. Now, one thing I did like, however, with this whole experience is having that introduction video, sort of showing what all I'm going to be doing with this project. Personally, I think that does a better job of explaining than just, having like a wall of text in the descriptor. So that is something I am going to keep. I liked it. I think it does a good job for what it is. And yeah, it's not that much extra effort to do. So, next. Probably the biggest change that came throughout the series is how I was putting it together in terms of editing. With the first full video we saw, it was over 2 hours long. It was, as I said, a full build showing everything. And then as we went along, I tweaked it, started it being smarter with my editing, not quite showing as much, but still trying to keep as much of the gut as I could, till we sort of got there at the end where it was like, okay, I want to get this done and out, and want to actually, finish this thing up. So as we went on, where I had originally envisioned showing everything came quite clear that wasn't going to work. This is why we started to see that. So this is where I'm going to get into another question is, what would you guys prefer? Do you prefer a longer format video that does show more of the nitty-gritty, more grindy type work? Or would you prefer something a little shorter, more manageable, that shorter just hits the important highlights, but trims out all the fat? This is, I guess, a question I'd like to know. Now, next thing. Another thing I had wanted to do with this project is have a fairly steady release schedule. I think when I first started it, I was planning for it to be coming out like one episode every month. Again, because of the time involved with editing and my current living situation, work, all that just sort of came together and just made that so that idea wasn't going to work. Now, if I am going to, as I stated, get everything sort of done, close to being done, at least as far as getting all the editing done, before I start releasing, what type of schedule do you guys prefer? I know there at the end we're doing every other week, but if we're talking a full series now, what is more preferable for you guys? Is once a month preferable, or is every other week something you guys would prefer? And similarly, if we are talking about this, this goes back into, okay, if we're doing the once a month, do you prefer a longer format or stay with a shorter format? Because realistically, that combination, for me at least, seems like it would work better. If we're going to do the longer format, releasing monthly would be better just because it would allow more time. Let's say, I get behind towards the end and, need that extra buffer to get videos out. Conversely, if we're doing shorter format, it's easier to do it on that bi-weekly schedule just because I'm not having to deal with as much video to go through. So that's another question I'd like to get your answers and ideas from you guys on. Now, one of the comments I did get was with regards to the camera location not being the best and stuff sometimes not being quite framed up right. Right away, I will tell you that's another thing I'm going to be tweaking once we get this move done. Unfortunately, it's going to stay for the next 2 video series because I've already got those recorded. But no, that is something I am going to change because I agree it doesn't work that great. This was me working with what I got available, what I had, and within the limits of my situation. So, yeah, that is something I'm also going to change. Now, another thing I got to comment on was with regards to music volume. Obviously, this is one of those things, it's really subjective how I'm hearing versus what you guys are using as far as volume settings and all that. So, I'd like to get some more input there. Is the volume good for you guys, or would you prefer me to raise or lower it? What's better for you guys? Now, another thing when I'm thinking about it, that I did change it as we got towards the end of the series was I stopped including the instruction little diagrams there on the screen. Frankly, I really felt that for the amount of effort it does take to get those in, it really wasn't adding enough to warrant to keep doing it. I know some people do include some of that information, but frankly, it just, for the amount of time and all that's required to get it done, it just, to me at least, did not seem like it added all that much. Again, this is another thing I'd like to hear from you guys. Does that add anything to the quality of the video for you guys? All things being equal, if you had one that did show it and one that didn't, does it make a difference for you as far as which you would prefer to see? Now, another thing we did later on is start doing the premieres. That's another thing I think I will continue for this series, is having that additional premiere, both because, one, it lets you guys know, hey, this is coming out, and when it is, just to give you the heads up. And two, I think having that live interaction, granted, this last one didn't see anything there, but hey, you never know. I think having that there is a plus. Now, this brings up another question I have for you. Historically, I've always released stuff at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I've done that for the entire history of this channel, or there's about, or at least once I started having an actual, schedule for when stuff came out. So I want to know, at least for these videos, does that work for you guys? I don't have a problem changing the time that I release them. That's easy enough to do. And especially if we're going to do the premiere, what works for you guys? Because I know starting next year we're going to be on East Coast time, so that's going to, obviously not work for a lot of people, or at least if you're in the US, where based on the infographics, it says majority of people who watch my videos are, releasing at 7 might not be best. It might be better for me to release at, say, noon East Coast time. But I would like to know, does 7 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard work for you guys, or would you like for me to release it later in the day? Especially if, we're going to do the premiere. And even if we don't do the premiere, what time would, work best for you guys? Obviously, we will be continuing these series. Next couple videos do hit a couple variety of subjects, but I would like to know, what type of subjects would you guys like to see for these full videos? Now, it's not like I don't have enough models to fill a lot of different subject areas, so I would like to know what you guys want to see. Obviously, I still have to be something I'm interested in, but at the same time, I'd like ideas. Oh, geez. Oh, it is getting a little dry. And lastly, and I do think I will do a separate video for this and go into a little more detail. How much detail do you guys actually want me going into? At least as far as, actual techniques and all that. Is it just a quick, word or two fine, or do you want to see the full-on how to do it? Personally, I'm leaning against that, just because I think that would be better served in some type of tutorial video, as opposed to, doing it within the confines of one of these videos. So, to put another way, say, do a tutorial video that's just on that technique, just on that particular style of doing a thing, and then, use that technique within the confines of that video, and maybe include like a link or something either in the description or in oh god, I can't remember what's called, the little pop-up window things to link to it. But overall, I do think this series was definitely a learning experience. I do think a decent amount of it worked. As you know, the numbers do show on average they're a lot higher than some of the other stuff I've done on this channel. Same time though, probably the biggest issue is audience retention. So my closing question for you guys is, what can I do to, encourage you guys to watch these videos all the way to the end? As at least according to the analytics, it's only like 10% of people who view my videos watch it to the end. And that was something that was consistent regardless of length and regardless of how soon or how late and wherever I ended up posting these videos as well. So, as I said, I am going to start work on the next one. No idea when that next series is going to start coming out. Figure it will probably be sometime next year. Realistically, I'm going to say late next year, just to give myself some bit of a buffer. And who knows, I might even start recording what will be Series 4. But that's sort of where we're at. Thank you guys again for sticking around watching this. I will also put a lot of these questions down in the descriptor box, just because I do want some feedback and responses to these questions, as that's how I'm ultimately going to be able to grow and improve, is knowing, okay, these are the areas I've got to do better in. So, until next time.